Good morning, everyone. Welcome to everyone here in Carson City, as well as those in Las Vegas, and of course, anyone watching online through our YouTube station or through Nellis. And with that, Committee Secretary, please take the roll.
Assembly members Cole. Here. Dahlia. Here. Gonzalez. Here. Gray.
Here and on time.
Hanson. Here. Hardy.
3 days in a row.
LaRue Hatch. Here. Marzola. Present. Moore. Here. Nadeem. Present. Orant-Licker.
Here.
Roth.
Here. What?
Urick.
Wait.
Miller. Chair Miller.
Here. Just a moment, please. All right, sorry for that. With that, just a few housekeeping reminders, asking everyone to turn off their electronics. Again, the agenda is available on Nellis, and on Nellis you will also find the phone number for today to call in if you wish to testify or make public comment. I will provide that number now. It is 1-888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 870-2058-9629. Again, we ask anyone making public comment or testifying on any bills to keep your comments to 2 minutes. We also ask presenters of bills to keep their presentations to 15 minutes. Whenever you are testifying or presenting, please make sure that you say your name and spell it the first time so that we have it correct for the record. Your affiliation will also be helpful as well. If you don't have an organizational affiliation, then you are just you representing you, and that's fine. With that, we do have 3 bills today. The first one we are, stop myself, I'm gonna stop. Actually, what we're gonna do first is a bill draft introduction. So we do have a BDR, it is 4489, and the measure is by the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Judiciary, and it revises provisions relating to criminal procedure. That is a very technical way to say, folks that were on interim, if you remember the presentation about using facility dogs in the courts, this would be the BDR. So with that, again, I will take a motion, and just reminding folks that this is not a motion offering your support or what your vote on the floor would be. It is literally just a motion to have the BDR turned into a bill, okay? We will still have a full hearing and process through that after that. So with that, I will entertain a motion to introduce BDR 4489. So moved. I have a second from Vice Chair Marzola. I have a third from Member Gonzalez. Any discussion? And with that, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you for that, members. Now I will open up our next agenda item, which is a bill hearing on Assembly Bill 97. Assembly Bill 97 revises provisions to public safety. And do we have anyone presenting in Las Vegas along with you or online?
Las Vegas.
Is she presenting? Is she coming to the table? Oh, there we go. Okay. And so I will give you both a few moments to get settled. Again, remember to please say your name, spell it for the record, and then each time you speak or respond to a member question, please remember to say your name again. With that, once you all are settled, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Miller, and members of the Assembly Committee on Judiciary. I am Assembly Member Hanadi Nadeem, Hanadi, NADEEM, presenting Assembly District 34 in Clark County. I am pleased to present Assembly Bill 97, which aims to revise provisions concerning the collection of crime data. Although I was not a member, this bill is a recommendation approved by the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary during the 2023-2024 interim. During the meeting on April 26, 2024, Elizabeth Abdul-Rahim, Executive Director, Nevada Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, stated that the occurrence of sexual violence in Nevada is underreported. This is believed to be the case because law enforcement only reports on what meets the definition of rape in statute, which according to Ms. Abdul-Rahim is very limited. Therefore, other instances of sexual violence are not included in the data. Existing law requires each agency of criminal justice to collect and maintain records, reports, and compilations of statistical data required by the Department of Public Safety, DPS, and submit the information collected to the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History in accordance with the policies, procedures, and definitions of the Uniform Crime Reporting (UCR) program of the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI). The UCR program and the National Incident-Based Reporting System (NIBRS) are both systems used by law enforcement agencies to report crime data to the FBI in 2021. NIBRS became the FBI's only standard for reporting crime data, replacing the UCR program summary reporting system. Therefore, AB 97 transitions Nevada crime reporting from the UCR program to NIBRS. This transition is significant because NIBRS provides more detailed and comprehensive data on crime incidents than the UCR program. It captures information on each individual incident, including types of offenses, characteristics of victims and offenders, and any property involved. This level of detail allows for more in-depth analysis and a better understanding of crime trends. Assembly Bill 97 aims to require each agency of criminal justice and any other agency dealing with crime to submit the information required by the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History, DPS, using NIBRS. In conclusion, AB 97 represents a necessary modernization of Nevada's crime reporting system. By adopting NIBRS, we will enhance the quality of our crime data, improve our understanding of crime trends, and better align ourselves with national standards. I urge your support and I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't see any questions. That is always, means you answered everything and,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah. Do you have a question? No. Oh, absolutely no questions. So with that, I will go ahead and open up testimony for support for Assembly Bill 97. Please proceed. Please come forward here in Carson City. Oh, somebody's dinging. Yeah. I just look at you just because. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support?
Yes. Good morning. Thank you, Assemblymember Nadeem, and good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Elizabeth Abdur-Rahim, ELIZABETH ABDUR-RAHEEM, and I am the Executive Director of the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. Thank you for allowing me to present today on the importance of adopting the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS, as Nevada's required crime reporting system. As Assemblymember Nadeem has already noted, interpersonal violence in Nevada is underreported and as such not well understood or resourced as our victim survivors deserve. Changing from the Uniform Crime Reporting Program to NIBRS has distinct advantages that will support the life-saving work of our victim survivors and law enforcement agencies. NIBRS creates a more comprehensive view of victimization through the collection of more extensive demographic data. 3 examples of this are especially important in uncovering the true depth and characterization of interpersonal violence in our state. First, NIBRS requires that agencies document the relationship between victims and offenders. In the absence of this data, we are currently misclassifying many domestic violence incidents. This misclassification does not get to the root of the violence, causing communities to be less effective in identifying appropriate prevention and intervention strategies. Second, NIBRS collects data on crimes that involve weapons. Understanding the use of weapons by offenders is key both in advocate support of victims and law enforcement's ability to recognize the likelihood of lethality. Finally, NIBRS collects data on co-occurring victimization. Often, more than one crime is committed in a violent incident. The UCR only collects data on the most serious offense in each incident, while NIBRS allows officers to report up to 10 offenses. This creates a much clearer picture of the full depth and trauma victims are experiencing. In the end, the collection of crime data isn't about numbers, it is about people. When we better understand the full experience of violent crime in our state, we can better prevent it.
Okay,
NIBRS is a
ma'am,
tool that will help us
excuse
discuss
me.
that.
Your time is up. So thank you so much for your testimony. If you have additional comments, you are more than welcome to submit them electronically to us. Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas? Also not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
Public lines are open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas? Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
The public lines are open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, I will welcome the bill presenters back up if you have any final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you, everyone. And if you have any question, please do let us know, and we are happy to help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. With that, I will go ahead and close the exceptional hearing on Assembly Bill 97 and open up the hearing for Assembly Bill 149. Assembly Bill 149 revises provisions relating to cannabis. And with that, I'll give you all a few moments to get situated. Please introduce yourselves, and when you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members.
Remember, I was going to say you don't have to sit that close to the microphone. Thank you.
I'm just worried about somebody making faces in front of me like last session. Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm Max Carter, Assembly District 12, MAXCARTER, and I'm here with my constituent and friend and valued member of the East Side community, Rihanna Durrett, to present this bill that's that we're working on building and growing our leadership in the community in the cannabis industry. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rihanna.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the Assembly Committee on Judiciary. My name is Rihanna Durrett. I'm the Executive Director of the UNLV Cannabis Policy Institute. The Institute was created in September 2022 with a vote of the State Board of Regents. It was spearheaded by UNLV President Keith Whitfield and Provost Chris Heavey. Our mission is to expand, coordinate, and promote cannabis education, policy, and research. Provost Chris Heavey continues to serve as the chair of the Cannabis Policy Institute's advisory board, along with my other esteemed board members that I've listed on the slide. I joined the Cannabis Policy Institute as its founding director in August 2023. Prior to that, I served as the executive director of the Nevada Dispensary Association, now Nevada Cannabis Association, and then was appointed to serve on the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board, where I served for 4 years and continue to serve as vice chair. We have had a very productive first year and a half at the UNLV Cannabis Policy Institute. We hosted a first-of-its-kind national policy symposium where we hosted cannabis experts, researchers, industry leaders, advocates, and regulators from around the country. We hosted a speakers series. We worked with the UNLV William S. Boyd School of Law to expand their cannabis law curriculum and courses available. We initially started with my cannabis law and policy class, and we've expanded from there to have several other cannabis-related law courses. We mentored and provided supervision to graduate students in multiple disciplines. We established a dedicated online space to share CPI research, reports, and updates on our activities, as well as launched a quarterly newsletter. We secured media coverage in state and national media outlets, disseminating information about the Institute, policy work, and we also supported the research efforts of UNLV faculty conducting their cannabis research and disseminating their research efforts. We publish multiple reports and articles on cannabis policy, and if you go to our website, you'll find out, you'll see many of those reports and activities. I wanted to point out 2 of them because they're the most relevant to the legislative session and hopefully future legislative sessions. 2 reports, they're available at these QR codes. They were also uploaded into Nellis, and they're available at the CPI website. They contain executive summaries, so feel free to just breeze through those executive summaries. The first one is a cannabis economy report, which contains information on retail and wholesale price trends, market share, challenges faced by cannabis businesses and state regulators, cannabis tourism opportunities, recommendations for cannabis policy changes in the future, and more. We also published a policy report, which is a comprehensive overview of cannabis policy in Nevada. Again, very brief executive summary. If you find the report itself daunting, you can also bounce around between the different policy areas in the report. We did extensive research on cannabis law and policy currently and held meetings with 60 people, including industry representatives, experts, researchers, law enforcement, and regulators, and distilled that down into actionable policy recommendations that could be implemented as early as this legislative session or future legislative sessions. So those are some of our, I'm just highlighting some of our activities so that I can, but the actual bill is requesting funding from the state of Nevada to fund the Institute. And the reason we have to come to the state to request that funding is that federal funding for cannabis-related research is very limited by its Schedule I status. Because of this and legalization across the United States, many states have taken it upon themselves to fund cannabis research activities. Some examples include Arizona, that's awarded up to $25 million in clinical trial research. Illinois has allocated 2% of cannabis tax revenues through its Cannabis Research Institute. Minnesota has dedicated $2.5 million annually through the Center for Cannabis Research. Utah has dedicated $650,000 through the Center for Medical Cannabis Research. Colorado dedicated $4 million initially to launch an Institute of Cannabis Research, and it continues to fund those efforts. Other states include Oregon, Massachusetts, and New York, and there are others also funding cannabis research. Given that this is not the funding committee, I won't go through the 30-page report that really justifies why to spend the money on this. I did provide the executive summary, so you have that at your fingertips right now. There is one other provision in the bill, and it would direct the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board to adopt a process for sharing data with research institutes. The CCB could already do this, but this provision would make it clear that the state encourages this kind of data sharing for research purposes, and that it would be a different process than the public records request. I have submitted a requested amendment that would limit the funding to the research to researchers and the costs of research. And I would like to thank Assemblyman Carter for bringing this bill. And with the chair's permission, we do have one other presenter in Las Vegas who will, Dr. Marla Stafford, will give a brief overview of some of the research that's been conducted at UNLV and some of the projects we would like to fund, or at least provide seed funding to.
Okay, first I just want to clarify, have you submitted the amendment?
Yes, and I thought that it had been accepted, but if not, I can make sure that it's
Okay,
provided.
please make sure, because we haven't received it.
Okay.
Okay, please proceed.
I had provided it late.
Okay.
That's probably why. Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you, Rihanna and Chair Miller and Vice Chair Marzola. I'm here to share a little bit about some of the research that we're doing here at UNLV, as well as some things that we are looking forward to doing. We have a number of different research projects going on here at UNLV, and we have that across the social sciences and the physical sciences. For example, Brad Donahue and his colleagues published an article in Addictive Behaviors, and they actually found psychometric support for contemporaneous and retrospective youth and parent reports of adolescent marijuana use frequency by studying an adolescent outpatient treatment population. Adolescents are not the only ones affected by cannabis in a positive or negative manner that we need to learn more about, but veterans. And Nicole Short and colleagues have investigated post-traumatic stress disorder and cannabis use characteristics among military veterans with cannabis dependence. This was the very first study to explore links between PTSD and cannabis use characteristics immediately prior cannabis quit attempt, including motives, use problems, withdrawal, and craving. Specifically, they found that compared to participants without PTSD, participants with PTSD reported significantly increased use of cannabis to cope, severity of cannabis withdrawal, and experiences of craving related to compulsivity, emotionality, and anticipation. So, excuse me, we also have work going on, as I said, in the social sciences, some work that I personally am doing, the evolution of consumer conversations about cannabis. And we presented this at the American Marketing Association and the Cannabis Research Conference. I'm also engaged in another study on marketing to assess what is most important to business in businesses and business and marketing strategy and their perceptions of their performance. We also have Drs. Rochelle and Dustin Hines, the Drs. Hines as we call them, working on neuroscience and cannabis projects and looking at childhood diseases. And this research has very, very significant implications for policy and proper use of cannabis. And we'd like to continue this research. We can't do that without some additional funding. And we see a few different areas that we can move in that direction if we have the money to support this research, such as the Drs. Hines, the husband-wife team. They would really like to continue their work in neuroscience and child diseases to learn how cannabis can help. And the CPI would like to support this work. This is very, very important work. Brad Donahue, and again, he is working in the area of youth, and he has a plan for a youth prevention program that he would like to develop. But again, as Rihanna mentioned, we are unable to fund that from national funds, and we are looking for some support here at the state level. Economic development and business research, very, very important areas of future research. And we really need to look across disciplines and engage the business school. We need to engage people that are interested in cannabis and cannabis businesses. And that means looking at effective marketing, finance, the effects of marketing. Industry research will help us track what is happening in the industry, and of course, in particularly Nevada, which of course we just have such an industry here that's tied, of course, to the state. And we need to engage other business professors and economic professors, such as myself. We've also started a project in cannabis and gaming, and we have engaged doctoral students in such work. And we think that's really important to grow the CPI as well. And so we are continuing work with doctoral students and engaging them and having them as part of the CPI. So that's just to give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on here at the CPI, where we would like to go. There is so much opportunity here to investigate different areas of cannabis in both the social sciences and the physical sciences, and we can't do that without additional funding. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we are doing, and I thank you for your attention on this.
Thank you, Chair Miller. We're available for questions, if there are any questions.
Awesome, thank you so much. And just a reminder to members, this is not a money committee. The bill was just sent here because we still have to go through the process of approving the policy attached to the bill, which would be like sending a message to the money committees that we support funding this for these reasons. So again, let's just focus on the policy and the programming with this bill. Maybe just pretend the money's already there. If money was already there, if we were handing them a check right now, had that availability, would we support the policies? So let's keep the questions around that and not the money, please. With that, we will start with Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. So I just wanted to touch on your adding in that the sharing of data with research institutions. So if you could just give me some examples of like what institutions you'd be sharing with, and then if you could just put on the record what information would still be confidential and what information you would be sharing. Thank you.
Rihanna Durrett, for the record. Yes, so an example of the data that would be requested is we had requested addresses to determine payroll amounts so that we could share with policymakers and interested parties how much payroll was generated throughout the state. And it's currently a difficult and kind of awkward process. You know, of course, the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board doesn't know exactly how much to share. It doesn't want to give any more information than it should. So the provision would require the board to adopt a regulation around that so that we could sculpt, okay, how should this process work so we can make sure that the right amount of information is being shared, it's being shared in a protective way. And the research institutes would be like Nevada Higher Education. I guess the regulation could address whether it would extend to other state agencies like DPBH, et cetera. Again, this is all already accessible. It's more about creating the process that is different than the public records request process.
Thank you. Our next question is from Member LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here this morning. So my question is on the same section. It says that information could be shared with a university, college, or other organization, which has as its principal purpose the conducting of research. My question is just, what are the guardrails on other organizations? Can I just start an organization out of my basement tomorrow and then suddenly get access to all of this information?
Rihanna Durrett, for the record, and to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch through, thanks. No, that is why it is tailored to designate research institutes and why we're maintaining this regulation process. So I can't speak for them. I know they're here, but the director of the CCB had pointed out that they would be concerned about that. And so that's why it would be a regulatory process to ensure that we're designating appropriate research institutes. And I think the bill does make it clear that it does have to be a research institute, but those concerns are shared, and that is why it's phrased the way it is, to make sure, and would require a regulation to make sure that it's the appropriate research institutes.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Good morning. Shout out to UNLV. Love UNLV. But my question is,
We are in the North, Assemblymember.
Go Rebels. Are we looking at other institutions? Because the presentation was primarily about UNLV. I do know we do have other research institutions in the South and the North, and so I'm curious if we're looking at that. Thank you.
Rihanna Durrett, for the record. These are such good questions. Yes, we are. I have reached out to UNR and have worked with Dr. Pearson a little bit on formulating this bill. I've reached out to the Desert Research Institute. I am a big collaborator. I've reached out to research institutes across the country. And so I'm definitely, the more cannabis research, and there's a lot to be done, the better.
Thank you. And with that, I don't see any additional questions, so I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. Those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 149 will start here in Carson City. So yes, please come forward and just fill up the chairs. Please remember to state your name and spell it for the record, and please keep your comments to
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Chelsea Capurro for the record, CHELSEA CAPURRO. We've already benefited from the great work this institute has done, and we're supportive of work in the future.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Alejandro Rodriguez, Nevada System of Higher Education, and she's in support of this legislation, and we'd like to thank Assemblymember Carter for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Chair Miller, members, Mackenzie Warren Kay, WARRENKAY. This type of research is really a gift for you as members, and it's an asset for industry. We urge your support. Thank you.
Chair Miller, Michael Flores, on behalf of the University of Nevada, Reno, and Member Gonzalez, thank you for the question. And we have been in conversations with UNLV, and we're in full support. I was going to come up prior to that question, but we're in full support, and although it doesn't directly affect us, we know the great work happening at UNLV in this space, and glad that they're leading, and look forward to partnering with them. So thank you.
Michael, can you repeat that last statement?
No, ma'am.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, members of the committee. Brett Scolari with Strategies 360 on behalf of CPCM Holdings and Cura Cannabis Solutions. Big fan of Ms. Durrett, worked with her a lot of years. This Policy Institute brings so much credibility and independence to the industry and the issues that surround it and questions the public has and everything else. And we just sincerely appreciate her work and urge your support. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS, and I just want to appreciate and thank the presenter for bringing this bill. I think it's super important. I have been a part. I don't think there can be enough research made available to the community at large, and I support this bill.
Hello, Will Adler with Silver State Government Relations. Actually with an incubator at UNR, NextNV, that is actually trying to diversify education and bring in new outlets of interest for the young people to actually engage with the universities. And I think this is actually a perfect vessel for UNLV to do such because cannabis is still a topic in Nevada. It's very hot and it's a career too. So it's something where if we can get engagement with the university and the actual cannabis industry all the better, and the research that comes out of it could benefit the whole state. So please support this bill. It's a great one. Thank you.
Hello, David Goldwater, DAVIDGOLDWATER with Pinion Public Affairs. I've come up in support of not only Assemblyman Carter's great work, but to tell you that you have a gem, or we have a gem, in Ms. Durrett and her work at the Institute, and whatever we can do to further her cause, or certainly keep her working, is appreciated by industry of all kinds.
All right, not seeing any additional testimony here in Carson, we will move down to Las Vegas.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Cannabis research is critical for our state, and on behalf of the Division of Research, my name is Michelle Tomasino, MICHELLE-TOMASINO. We are in support of this bill because it can help identify the potential therapeutic benefits to our local community as well as the greater state.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Chandler Cooks. I'm here today as a social equity licensee and a strong advocate of evidence-based cannabis policy. I've had the privilege of working closely with the Cannabis Policy Institute, and I'm very proud to support AB 149. This bill is a critical investment in the future of cannabis policy, ensuring decisions are guided by research and not speculation. And by providing funding to the Cannabis Policy Institute, Nevada is positioning itself as a national leader in cannabis regulation, economic development, and consumer safety. I also believe that this is just the beginning. Looking ahead, I would love to see the future expansion of research funding to all Nevada universities. Expanding access will ensure that a diverse range of academic institutions and disciplines contribute to shaping the future of cannabis in our state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? Okay.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jacob Erickson, JACOB-ERICKSON. I'm a professor at UNLV. I study drug use and drug-related behaviors, and I am a faculty affiliate of the Cannabis Policy Institute. I'm here to speak in support of AB 149. You probably have already heard that resources for cannabis research is quite limited, and thus our ability to craft thoughtful policy related to cannabis is also limited. My research would be focused and is focused on cannabis tourism, which is a fast-growing industry, consumer behavior and education, as well as public perceptions on cannabis, ideally to help strike a balance between cannabis use, public health, and social and economic well-being. Such research would assist Nevada in taking a leading role in understanding cannabis and cannabis tourism, as well as public health-related cannabis. We can answer the questions that the legislature and that Nevadans have about cannabis, but we need the resources and the access to the data to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support? Not seeing any. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 149, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, then I will open it up for testimony in opposition. If there's anyone that would like to oppose the bill, please come forward here in Carson. Is there anyone that would like to testify in opposition in Las Vegas? Broadcasting, please open the line.
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 149, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral here in Carson City? Anyone in Las Vegas? Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 149, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Follow with the last 3 digits, 262. You are unmuted and may begin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Assembly members. This is our first time dialing in. My name is Jason Garrett Gibson. I'm also known as Bud G. Justice within the political sphere of the decriminalization of hemp cannabis, having served 11 months felony time at the age of 16 out of Douglas County, Nevada. This is a pro recommendation for the appropriate money to continue supporting one of the most progressive institutions probably in the country, at least on the West Coast, which would be our University of Nevada, which is poised to become a global industry leader in social reform. To remind you that this drug war that we've been subject to for 85 years is at the root cause of many of our social woes, social neuroses, and the criminal economy, which has ranked the state of Nevada as 48th in the nation for fraud, failure by the Institute for Public Integrity in Government. Nevada incarcerates more people than any other state in this nation because of this drug war on this herb, on this plant. And to remind you that the earth doesn't manufacture drugs, corporations manufacture drugs. This cannot be classified as a controlled substance or a drug anymore. It's essential civilian demand to be properly educated about the appropriate aesthetic application within the yogic context, within the aesthetic athletic context of health and well-being when it comes to organic alternatives to pain. Now, right now, they've prescribed so many pills. Well, I don't want to go off on that, but let me just say thank you for entertaining this. This is our first call in, so I wasn't able to dial the appropriate digits, but please continue funding the appropriate institutions and peoples who are bringing this forward, and let's end this drug war, and let's make it known that Nevada incarcerates more people than any other NATO country in the world because of this drug war.
Sir, I have 2 questions for you, please. Are you still okay? First, would you like your testimony to be moved into support for the bill? Because we're actually in neutral right now. So would you like your testimony moved into support for the bill? To continue to...
Yes, I pressed the wrong...
okay.
Yes, ma'am. I pressed the wrong keys, and this is the first call dialing into the legislative session. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. We will move your testimony into support. And also, will you restate and then spell your name so we have it correct for the record?
Yes, 40-year resident, Douglas County, Nevada, Jason Garrett Gibson. That's Garrett Gibson. Post-political prisoner, District 1 County Commissioner.
We just needed the spelling of your name.
Incarcerated in Douglas County at the age of 16.
Yes.
Jason Garrett Gibson, Jason Garrett Gibson, a.k.a. Bud Justice, Budgibson.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for calling in. With that, next caller, and we are still in testimony for neutral.
Chair, there are no other callers at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, I will welcome the bill presenters back up for any final remarks.
Thank you, Chair. Max Carter, Assembly District 12. And keep it brief, that I just bringing this bill, recognizing the maturing industry and the continuing leadership that Nevada's shown in evolving industries. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 149 and open the hearing on Assembly Bill 203. Assembly Bill 203 also revises provisions relating to cannabis. So I will give your co-presenters a few moments to get situated. Also, Assembly member, do we have another PowerPoint, or should that one be taken down? Thank you. Okay, I'll give you all a few minutes to get situated, and whenever you're ready, remember to state and spell your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Max Carter, M-A-X-C-A-R-T-E-R, Assembly District 12. And thank you for your indulgence. I'm here to present AB 203. AB 203 is looking to bring cannabis regulation into the modern era. It's recognizing that it's a mature industry that is now ready to move on to the next phase. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-presenters, Brett Scolaris, David Goldwater, and a little later you'll hear from Amanda Connor. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair Marzola, Brett Scolari from Strategies 360, BRETT-SCOLARI. Here today, honored to be here today, and appreciate Member Carter asking me to provide you a section-by-section summary of the bill. So there's a lot to unpack here, so I'll get to it. Section 1 establishes the Social Equity Liaison within the Cannabis Compliance Board. The Executive Director appoints this position, which focuses on community outreach, providing information on social equity in the cannabis industry, responding to inquiries, and performing duties assigned by the Executive Director. The board must post contact information for the liaison on its website. Section 2 amends NRS 678A.450 to prohibit the board from requiring wholesale cannabis packages to contain labels other than those necessary for the functionality of the seed-to-sale tracking system. As currently written, Section 4 allows cannabis sales facilities or third parties contracted with the licensee and approved by the board to deliver cannabis products to consumers at any location, provided it is not within 1,000 feet of a school, 300 feet of a community facility, or 300 feet of a gaming establishment. This section further provides that the board cannot require vehicle inspections for certain delivery vehicles. We're expecting discussion on these provisions, including a proposed amendment that will be presented by Amanda Connor. Section 5 permits qualified social equity parties to enter into joint venture agreements with cannabis cultivation and production facilities. These agreements must be approved by the board and comply with its regulations. Joint venture businesses can engage in activities authorized for the partnering facility and must operate on the premises of that facility. The board will adopt regulations governing these agreements and businesses. Section 6 makes a conforming change to facilitate the joint venture agreements. Section 7 amends NRS 678B-250 to exempt social equity applicants from the requirements to control certain liquid assets when applying for licenses for independent cannabis consumption lounges. Section 8 amends NRS 678B-380 to remove restrictions on the transfer of licenses for independent cannabis consumption lounges. Section 9 amends NRS 678B-520 to authorize cannabis production facilities to produce and sell non-infused pre-rolls to cannabis sales facilities. Section 10 amends NRS 678B-650 to prohibit regulations from requiring cannabis sales facilities to maintain visitor logs or keep sales transaction records for more than 3 years. It also allows any employee who is not involved in the regular management of the inventory to conduct quarterly inventories that are required by the board. Section 11 amends NRS 678C 100 to exclude cannabis seeds from the definition of usable cannabis. Sections 12 through 17 make conforming changes to facilitate joint venture agreements. Section 18 amends NRS 52.400 to specify that the Cannabis Compliance Board is considered a law enforcement agency for purposes of seizing cannabis. Section 19 adds a new section to Chapter 372 of NRS to apply sales tax provisions to unlicensed cannabis sales. Section 20 adds a new section to Chapters 372A of NRS to authorize the Department of Taxation to impose administrative fines for unlicensed cannabis sales. Sections 21 and 22 make conforming changes. Section 23 amends NRS 372A 290 to exempt cannabis sales of joint venture businesses from certain wholesale excise taxes. Section 24 amends NRS 372A 380 to clarify that remedies for tax violations are cumulative. Section 25 adds a new section to Chapter 374 of NRS to apply sales tax provisions to unlicensed cannabis sales. Section 26 amends NRS 480140 to assign primary responsibility of enforcing criminal laws related to unlicensed cannabis activities to the Investigation Division of the Department of Public Safety. Section 27 amends NRS 618-9941 to exclude cannabis sales facilities from the definition of cannabis establishment for the purposes of occupational health and safety training requirements. And last but not least, Section 28 requires the Cannabis Compliance Board and the Gaming Control Board to jointly prepare and submit a report by December 31, 2026 on the relationship between gaming and cannabis industries, including but not limited to how the agencies might work together in the event of changes to federal cannabis laws. And just a couple remarks to close before I turn it over to Mr. Goldwater. I've been involved in the cannabis industry in one role or another for 12 years. It's still young, it's growing, it has growing pains. The federal issue and legalization still looms over the industry. In regard to the expansion of delivery locations and the joint report this bill calls for by the GCB and CCB, one thing that's remained constant in the 12 years I've been involved is the biggest threat to this industry is the illegal cannabis market. So, and quite honestly, I think every cannabis-related hearing in this building, the illegal market's been brought up, at least in what I've seen. So those provisions in this bill to expand delivery and call for that report really gives the industry and the state some more tools to hopefully disrupt and frustrate the illegal market. That's the intent here. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Also, Amanda Connor will follow with some technical amendments to 203. You also will hear some concerns and issues in opposition and neutral testimony. I stand committed to continue working with these fine gentlemen. Member Carter, thank you for bringing this bill, and all those involved, CCB, GCB, DPS, all the other industry stakeholders and representatives, and also including the Nevada Resort Association. So I stand ready to work on this some more after this hearing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brett. David Goldwater, represent Pinion Public Affairs. And our group represents a small group of dispensary-only groups, including one in which I'm a partner, which is Inyo, Euphoria, Wallflowers, and a couple of others. We're concerned with day-to-day operations, and to the point, Mr. Scolari's point, it is a nascent industry. It is something that started in 2000 when medical cannabis was legalized in the Constitution. It wasn't until 2013 that we passed laws to allow for dispensaries, and one of the arguments was by our great esteemed senators, bipartisan both Senators Hutchinson and Senator Sagerblum determined that having that constitutional requirement wasn't being met without allowing some sort of distribution system. And we didn't start recreational sales until 2017. So we're in the early days. And in those days, we sort of charged into a space where there wasn't too much experience and people didn't know too much. So the laws and regulations that were reflected back then that are sort of legacy today, we now have much more data in order to fine-tune them in order to work as a partner. I think this industry has realized, and the regulator has realized, that we are partners together. We collect a lot of tax. We help fund a small portion of state government, and we have treated both the regulators in the state and you all, and we thank you for the privileged license, and we want to make this industry great. I command you to, I don't command you, I command, I command Mr. Excuse me.
This is a former assembly member as well, so just so you all know.
I want to command to your attention Ms. Durrett's report, the Nevada Cannabis Report by UNLV. We have much more data thanks to her and her work at the university, and it is from there that we feel like we can stand on pretty firm ground. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's really happening in the illegal market when we're talking about the illegal market. Sometimes, depending on who you talk to, they have a different thought of what that is. One pretty apparent part of the illegal market are what we call pop-ups. You may go down the strip and see some, in a retail space, marijuana leaves on a retail store that they may intimate that they're selling something other than licensed cannabis. They are not. They usually say something like CBD. They have marijuana leaves there, and customers go in there unknowingly, and somehow, some way, they're able to buy unregulated, unlicensed, untested cannabis. And you can usually smell it on the strip, and it's not just there, but all over town. These pop-ups pop up, and they make as much money and create as much sales as they possibly can until somebody comes and shuts them down, and they just shut them down. They don't do anything. Nobody's arrested. No charges are pressed. There's no taxes collected. They just move on. So that's one type. The bigger type is online. This was, I'm a little bit older than some of the folks on this committee, but I was shocked to find out how these online sales occur.
Mr. Goldwater,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
I just ask you, could you explain how the bill would address those concerns?
Sure. There are a couple sections of the bill, not only in the, as Mr. Scolari pointed out in his section by section, there are some tax implications where we want to give the Department of Tax some ability to levy regulatory penalties on excise tax and sales tax that should be collected. There are some areas where the DPS portion in here?
Brett Scolari for the record. One other provision is the giving the primary criminal responsibility to the investigation division of the Department of Public Safety. The other provisions that
how would that be different from what's occurring now? Is that different from what's occurring now?
Yes. Right now, there was some confusion whether it was CCB or DPS, and I think the result of those discussions was DPS should be the criminal enforcement agency for cannabis, unlicensed cannabis activities. The other provisions of the bill that are important to disrupt the illegal market that David's pointed out, so many different variations of it, is to allow the existing licensed legal cannabis operators to compete with those folks. And that's where the provisions of this bill and expanding delivery options for licensed operators can provide competition to help disrupt those illegal activities. So those are the main points on how to get after these illegal operators that pop up like whack-a-mole. So those are the provisions we're looking at. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Miller. David Goldwater again. And I'm a firm believer the best way to compete with the illegal market is to offer a better product at a better price. And in order to do that, there's some fine-tuning in the regulations that just make it a little bit easier for us, a little bit tougher on them, and then we can go head-to-head. The product in Nevada is tested and safe, and the delivery regulations make sure that we are delivering only cannabis to people over 21. We look out for children and make sure we don't sell anything to them. So certainly being able to compete better is important. Facebook and Instagram are a place where the illegal market is proficient. They are just advertising proxies, as we know.
And Mr. Goldwater,
Yes,
again,
ma'am.
does the bill address those?
Indirectly. So
Okay,
in the indirect manner in which in which
Just because I'm going to be quite frank, I don't want this to turn into a hearing on the illicit market. We do know absolutely that is a concern and a reality.
Okay.
But just, if anything, could tie to what the bill can address.
Understood. I just didn't want to make sure if you understand that, Telegram, Facebook, and then it lands
Telegram?
in the street. Yes. The app. Right.
Oh, I showed my age
So-
because I have no idea what a telegram.
Let me
I
walk
know what a
you through it.
telegram
I
is.
promise to be.
I know what
promise to
2
be
cans
really
and a
quick.
rope is, but okay. So proceed.
So Facebook and Instagram will link to Telegram. Telegram sends you a menu. There's no personal information required. You come to Las Vegas, now you're in this world, and they are delivering to hotels and houses and places we're not allowed to. And they deliver, by the way, everything, all kinds of drugs, allowing maybe legal operators to not prohibit them from being able to deliver in certain places is an excellent way to compete with the illicit market there. I'll go through. You've got the black market. Further, there's a definition on private residence in Section 4. This is another fine-tuning piece. Currently, we cannot, a licensed operator cannot deliver to the dailies, to townhomes. It's restricted, serves private non-transient residential dwelling. So the definition of what is a private residence or what is a residence needs to change a little bit to expand to our more vulnerable people who also deserve the service of the legal market. The vehicle inspection piece in Section 4 is something that makes it very onerous on operators to put certain things in the car. That's something we were concerned with in 2013 and 14. Many states, you're simply able to deliver it out of any vehicle, a rental vehicle that works and is safe and is not required to be inspected by the division. Don't see what the value is there for anybody other than to make it challenging. One of the other weird things that's required that we get inspected on is a visitor's log. The visitor's log is required to be maintained in all the dispensaries. That's to make sure that everybody knows who walks in and out, which might have been relevant in medical days, but when it's adult use and people freely walk in and out as long as they have ID proving how old they are, it seems weird that we are forced to maintain visitors logs, at least at the dispensary level. Finally, there's some changes in quarterly inventory and who can count those. We want to make sure that they're counted independently, but there's some restrictions on exactly who can do it. We want to make that clear. And finally, in Section 27, and this is something we've been working closely with Assemblyman Carter on, there is OSHA training currently required in the law for dispensary employees. Managers are required 30 hours of OSHA training and employees 10 hours of OSHA training. This is training I've taken myself, and if you can look at what the OSHA training is, it's mostly centered on construction. So it's 5 days, so 30 hours. They're grouped in 7-hour lessons, 5 full days of paid training on things like crawlers, locomotives, truck cranes, slings, derricks, and helicopters. So we're not sure how OSHA manager that's relevant, but it's something Assemblyman Carter has said we'll work on. In conclusion, it's a new industry. We're trying to fine tune so we can compete with the black market and create some friction for those in the black market that are working against us and bring us, pardon the sports pun, but on a level playing field in order to compete fairly. Thank you.
Before we continue, I just want to ask a question about Section 27.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know there's also, first I should ask a question. There's a number of amendments that have been submitted. Are all of these amendments friendly amendments? Are you accepting all of the amendments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so with that, there is the amendment for Section 27 to strike out, except that the term does not include a cannabis sales facility as defined. Submitted.
Yes, ma'am, and that is my amendment, and yes, it is being struck out.
So that,
we're going to work on it in the future.
okay, so right now as a bill, this would not exclude them. They would still consider,
Yep.
they would still continue to receive that OSHA training.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Please proceed.
And now we're going to take and bring up Amanda Connor. And before she walks through the amendments, I just wanted to say that I carry bills that I have a connection to. And I come from, first off, I'm obviously mature. And I come from a mature community in Las Vegas that is very culturally diverse and age-based diverse. And I've watched my community, everything from the LDS Temple to first-generation immigrants from South America and Central America. And universally, when the first dispensary was put near our community, about 2 years ago, that we saw a few old curmudgeons that were still stuck like me in my head on the war on drugs. They tried to come out against it, and they were overwhelmingly pushed down by other mature people, because now a lot of people of my generation have taken and rediscovered cannabis. You know, from war on drugs, this is your brain on drugs, frying egg, and all of that, to now having two of your sons come over and do a reverse intervention when they see their father destroying himself through grief with lack of sleep and refusal to take anything addictive, and basically mandating that their dad, me, try some gummies, and rediscovering that there was a way to take and sleep more than 2 hours a night through things that are plant-based, that are natural-based. And the senior citizens community up in my area, they're some of the prime accessors of the dispensaries, in that they're finding out that they don't have to walk around on opiates all day because they got a bad knee, that they can rediscover sleep. And where I'm going with this was tying in the mature into, we've got an industry that's maturing, that's becoming more and more part of the community. And we have to take and evolve regulation to foster that business model while also protecting our community, making sure that those products that are available out there are tested and safe and of known strength and quality. And to that point, I am well aware, third generation, whose family has benefited nonstop from the economic driver in Southern Nevada of the gaming industry. I am not going to allow anything to come through a bill that I carry that damages or harms the gaming industry, and I'm committed to making sure we find a way to take and work with all industries on forming ways to protect the reputation of our communities, our visitors, and our industries. Thank you. And I'll turn it now over to Amanda.
Good morning, Chairwoman, members of the committee. Amanda Connor, AMANDACONNOR, and I have some proposed amendments to AB 203. I'll go through them very briefly and then can address questions if the need arises. To Section 4, the proposed amendment would be to remove the distance measuring portion of delivery, and that you could be able to deliver to any place that is not a public or private school, a community facility, or an establishment that has a non-restricted gaming license. In practice, to have a individual at a dispensary trying to do a distance separation analysis every time they had to do delivery does not seem feasible, and currently such analysis is not required for the delivery that is in our current law, and so it would actually eliminate people who can currently receive deliveries to no longer be able to receive them. And the intent of this was to, as Mr. Scolari indicated, was to frustrate that illicit market. So if we actually limit delivery more, that was not the intended purpose. Section 4.3 would be, it would not be necessary if Section 4.1 is amended. With Section 5, subsection 6, the recommendation is to remove this section. Currently, the Cannabis Compliance Board has in place procedures for reviewing and approving agreements between parties. The proposal would be that this joint venture agreements go through that same process instead of statutorily putting in place how liability should be imposed. Section 9 is to address the ability for production facilities to package certain things such as pre-rolls. This issue came to light because of the definition of production facility. So while Section 9, subsection 10, there's a tweak to that provision, we would also need to update the definitions of production facilities, so there would be a proposal to update those definitions as well. Section 10, subsection 2C is regarding quarterly inventories. This has been a practice in place since the cannabis industry began in Nevada, but it's clarifying who is able to do those quarterly inventories, as there has been some confusion and different interpretations throughout the time the industry has been in place. With regards to Section 2, there's currently in AB 203, it was a change on what's required for packaging and labeling. The intent here is to get rid of duplicative information, not to delete or remove any warnings, but just to make it where it doesn't have to be both on a package and on a label. There's a proposal in the amendments to actually define what does label mean and what does package mean. In the cannabis industry, currently, package is the outer-facing container that goes to the consumer, and the label is a printed piece of paper. Think of like your CVS receipt that goes in the bag. It can be attached, but does not have to be attached. It can go in the bag with the product. So the proposal here is that if it's on the package, which would go with the consumer, you don't also have to place it on the label. And that's what this whole Section 2 clarification does.
Thank you very much, Max Carter, for the record. Thank you very much, and we're here to answer questions. I hope that Brett and David didn't run out on me.
Yeah, didn't you see the door swing? No, I'm sure they're coming back up to support with answering questions. Thanks. Okay, our first question will come from Assembly Member LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is on the amendment, and I noticed that with the changing language, we're taking out an entire section on the label for the keep out of reach of children, the ingredients, the food allergens, and I just want to confirm, will that then still be on the package so that it is still accessible for folks?
Good morning, Amanda Connor, Assemblywoman. I'm sorry, do I need to go through?
No, please go direct.
Okay. Assemblywoman Hatch. The intent there is to remove it such that it is not required to be on the label. Thus, if it's on the package, it would not have to be on the label. It has to be on one or the other, is how the change would work.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And knowing that this is obviously amendment and not the final NRS language, it will be in NRS somewhere that it says it has to be on the package. Is that correct?
Amanda Connor, for the record, subsection 6 of there that is not proposed to be changed talks about what this cannabis facility has to do, and it has to have those requirements, including keep out of reach of children. Ingredients, I believe, is in another section that's not included on here. But yes, the intent is that it's either on the label or the package. It's just not expressly required to be on the label. Because currently what's happening is it's on most packages, and then they're also having to print it again on the label.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering if this bill currently allows social equity consumption lounge license holders to sell their license without first meeting the financial requirements to the board.
Good morning, Assemblywoman Amanda Connor, again for the record. That is not in this bill, but there is another proposed bill that has that provision.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Cole.
Good morning. Thank you for this. And I appreciate all the explanation of how the bill works because it's a long one. My question is related to the joint venture aspect. And I know you said there's something in the amendment. You're not striking everything with the joint venture, just the one portion, right? With the board approving it?
Correct. Amanda Connor, again for the record. Assemblywoman, the proposed amendment is just to remove this subsection that talks about how liability is detailed, in that it would not strike everything relating to joint ventures. The idea would be that the joint venture agreement would follow the same process other agreements do, which is go in front of the Cannabis Compliance Board.
Okay, fantastic. I think that probably answers my question overall, but I'm going to read through it one more time and I can reach out to you with questions if I have them, right?
Yes, I would welcome that.
Okay, thank you.
We will return to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. So I get two right away. That's amazing. Okay, my question is on the delivery, and you mentioned that there will be safeguards on the delivery system. Obviously, you can't deliver to a school or a community facility, right? But can you just go a little more in depth on what are the safeguards you're envisioning on those delivery systems, like age verification, any of those things?
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Goldwater. Those safeguards exist. So when somebody calls for a delivery, we are required to put a manifest together. We have to verify age over the telephone. We have to keep all of licensees have to keep all of that in a file, and then we have to report any incidences back to the CCB. They can't carry more than a certain amount of cannabis with them at all times. All those exist today. What's in the bill and what's envisioned is changing the definition of private residence. We've restricted that a little bit to not allow weeklies. I think mobile home communities are not eligible for delivery in some areas, and the by ordinance, I think anywhere in non-restricted gaming licensees' property is not allowed. So the legal deliveries are the only deliveries that are not allowed in a non-restricted gaming. But all those the current consumer protections that exist for delivery are not being touched in this bill.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So just to clarify, you're saying that under the bill you are excluding like mobile homes, or you're saying under this bill you're expanding it to those? Okay.
Expanding the definition of what a private residence is. That's right. And it was limited by regulation, specifically NCCR 1.163 in the definition of a private residence. And it's something the division has been working with the industry on. I don't know if it's perfect in the bill, but I think we're getting closer.
But most certainly, mobile homes are personal residencies, so.
One would think. And, you know, a lot of people live in dailies as well, and asking.
I feel like I'm gonna open.
Daily, weekly rentals, I should say.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm gonna open a can of worms if I ask about that, but a lot of people do live in there. I don't want to open this can. Don't open the can, but I can't help but open the can.
Can of
but
worms.
yeah, I'm just wondering because again, if then it falls under the definition of a hotel or motel as opposed to a personal residence because of how it's being used.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the restriction is, I think we're using non-restricted gaming licensee is where it's strictly prohibited by ordinance.
Okay. All right, we'll put that lid right back on that, so. You're welcome. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here. I wanted to revisit the packaging just to make sure I understand it correctly. I'm a DoorDasher extraordinaire. Love the service, but I've never. I'll expose myself here. I've not ever been privy to buying services at a dispensary, so I'm not familiar with the packaging situation. So I'm already a lot without any substance. So that's just me. But for instance, if I were to get a delivery from Walgreens, and I happen to have, the packaging, it comes in a bag, but then the product is inside and it has a label. So are we saying that as long as there's the packaging that it came in had something, the product inside does not have to have the label? I'm just concerned that the product that might be laying around has the actual label on it.
Max Carter, for the record, thank you for that question. And yes, and from a layman's, not an expert in the industry, that when you get the bag that you're getting now, it's usually full, your product, and then full of all of these stickers that may be partially put on, that may glue the whole thing into a big conglomerate that you got to peel the stickers off of, or it's wound up and stuffed in there. Those stickers, most of the time, the information that's on those stickers is already on the label. And that's what we're getting at, is there's no need to take and print out all of these stickers and all of this stuff if all of the information is on the label already. And arguably, having the information on the label of the actual product is more effective because it's still there instead of wadded up and thrown in the trash can.
Quickly, please.
Thank you for that. So in actuality, if I have the actual product that's in a wrapper, that label is always going to be on there.
Amanda Connor, for the record, Assemblywoman. I believe the answer is yes. In the cannabis industry, the packaging is defined as the outermost thing that it holds the product. So what most laymen would call the label that's affixed to the container is what we call packaging in the cannabis industry. So that will be on there, that will have the information. In the cannabis industry, we have an extra thing called the label, which is, as Assemblywoman, or Man Carter, said, is usually stickers, right? White stickers that would be printed with that information it's duplicative. So the idea is to get rid of the duplicity in the requirements, so that nothing, the intent is not to get rid of information to the customer, it's just to get rid of additional duplicative information.
David Goldwater, just to put a finer point on that to tell you how it happens at the retail level. So when a product is received from the wholesaler, some of it has the information on it, some of it doesn't. If it doesn't, then the retailer needs to put it on there. But for a packet of gummies or a pre-roll that already has all the required information, today we take that into our shop. There's somebody who is paid to print out a bunch of stickers, put the exact same information on there. It needs to be then put into a container, not a container, but a package that is child-proof and resealable, which we do, even if it came in a child-proof and resealable package. We put it in another bag. Those bags are about $1.50 a piece. So, and then we print out a receipt that also has several warnings on there and attach that to the package. So this only reduces one step for those that don't have that information on there. We don't have to put a sticker on there that has it.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. And I believe my colleague asked, I have concerns about the packaging and deleting one or the other. To me, if I go to the pharmacy and I get a package that has all my information along with the label on my medication, I like both, right? I usually throw the package away. But deleting one or the other, it's kind of giving me pause, but we can have a discussion offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assembly Member Ordlicher.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. I have a question about Section 5 on page 7, the joint venture. And what my concern is, we've seen with other programs in other jurisdictions that have these kinds of social equity provisions, that sometimes joint ventures turn into the person who's the licensee, the social equity person, ends up being a front for a non-social equity operation. And I see that you have a provision, I think the next page on page 8, about the compliance board shall issue regulations, one to set forth minimum ownership for the social equity person. So I see you've got some safeguards, but I wonder if we should have more specific safeguards in statute.
Max Carter for the record. Thank you, Assembly Member. That, yes, and that is being discussed, and we're still working on it because I have the same concerns that you are. You know, I come from the construction industry where we've seen so much exploitation of turning, contractors into minority or whatever contractors by positioning people on the board and all of this stuff. We're not going to allow that to happen. You hit on a big part of it, is making it to where the CCB is still regulating all of that and overseeing that, but we're working now with the stakeholders to prevent just what you're talking about happening.
And Chair, if I might add, Brett Scolaire for the record, Assemblymember Orntlicker, great question. We also have the concerns. The intent of these joint ventures. Let me take a step back. Social equity lounges, I think 20 of them were licensed. 0 of them have opened. That's the reality. These provisions in the bill on the joint venture, we're trying to find a way that the existing industry licensees can bring partners in and another entry level for those social equity groups or entities. So that's the overall intent. The intent is not to create a loophole where they're not paying taxes or the licensee runs the whole operation. It's really Take for instance, someone in the social equity category has a gummy idea or a product idea. They could go to a production facility and say, I would like to do a joint venture with you, use 200 square feet of your space and make this product and contribute to your facility and share in the revenue. That would be a scenario, but in no means is this intended for folks to take advantage of, and we will tighten it up for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Roth.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. My question is in regards to Section 26, subsection 2, with placing the investigation responsibilities with DPS. And that makes sense to me, but I'm wondering if you could just touch on that a little bit more. I know that there are a lot of joint law enforcement efforts in this area. And was there a reason behind placing it with DPS or versus local law enforcement or anything like that?
Thank you, David Goldwater. This has been, Assemblywoman Roth, this has been a very challenging aspect of who's going to be doing this. We had many meetings over the interim to figure out what's the right law enforcement jurisdiction to address this. We've had problems at the local law enforcement level because of how some of the statutes are crafted and the fact that it's no longer a scheduled drug at the state level. Nobody was prosecuting. And even when arrests were made, the prosecutors weren't prosecuting, so local law enforcement was kind of looking the other way because they weren't going to put resources into something that wasn't going to be prosecuted. So we then are left with the Cannabis Compliance Board or DPS. And we wanted to make clear, I think Assemblyman Carter wanted to make clear where the jurisdiction lay. And CCB doesn't have very much law enforcement experience, didn't want to get it, didn't want some of their officers out there post-certified or not. And so it seemed natural. Director Tagliati expressed all the challenges that DPS will have with this. They do work on some joint federal task force stuff and do some big stuff interstate and are brought in on it. Again, it's not the solution for where the jurisdiction lies, but it's a little more clearer with this language than not. And of course, when you do something like this, there are funding concerns. I anticipate there'd be a fiscal note associated with this, depending on what the final language looks like.
Thank you, that makes sense. And Chair, I have a second question if there's time. Thank you. And then my second question is in regards to Section 23, subsection 9, in regards to the excise taxes imposed. Could you just help me understand that a little bit better of what the intent was behind excluding the excise tax for joint venture businesses?
Thank you, Brett Scolari, for the record. Assemblymember Roth, as I reported, the social equity consumption lounges haven't opened. We're trying to find another entry point for these social equity folks. The tax incentive, tax exemption for products that are sold through a joint venture, that was aimed at providing an incentive for existing licensees to take those social equity folks in their facility, do a joint venture with them, and then potentially save some taxes. We're not married to the idea, but I do think the licensees need some sort of incentive so we can incubate these relationships with the social equity folks.
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of this, I'm just going to follow up on my colleague's question about the enforcement, because I appreciate and understand that this is really a concern to go after these illicit, unlicensed operators and how we can better address that. So, and I appreciate you sharing, you know, some of the challenges getting there with DPS and their ability to implement this. So, but I just want to be sure, like the intent and the overall goal here is, Mr. Goldwater, you mentioned pop-ups, and they're kind of just, you know, they say you can't do this and they move on and down the street or whatever. But once this is all fully established, would like DPS then be able to make arrests and charge and then impose the fines with the taxes? Is that what the intent of that we're trying to get to here? So that whether it's online or pop-ups, we're actually getting unlicensed actors and with real consequences?
David Goldwater, Assemblymember Hardy, yes, that's the intent.
And if I could, Max Carter for the record, this decision was not made in a vacuum. It was, you know, discussed with the agencies involved and that branch of government. This is a solution that they are friendly towards.
Thank you. We will return back to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. It's a big bill, so we got lots of questions this morning. I would like to go to Section 1, which we haven't discussed very much so far, about the social equity liaison. I think I get what you're trying to achieve here, but I think that the objectives of this person's office are kind of nebulous in the bill, and so I wondered if you could just speak to what is the issue you are trying to address, and how will this position help address that?
Thank you, Brett Scolaire for the record. Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. I think that position is needed. It's been needed. When the social equity consumption lounges were licensed and they're having trouble with operational questions or application questions or, you know, an array of issues. These are folks that aren't used to, you know, the application processes and don't necessarily have lawyers at their, lawyers at their fingertips, et cetera. So this was an idea to put someone in the Cannabis Compliance Board who could be a liaison to those folks and help them with application questions, operational questions, you name it. And we thought it would be a very beneficial thing to both the Cannabis Compliance Board and the social equity folks.
David Goldwater, to put a point on that to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Social equity, what's in this bill is not a solution for social equity, nor is anything in the law, because it's a very challenging subject that is very nuanced. Some of the original social equity folks that were part of the program, not just in Nevada but in other states, you know, it has been more of a curse sometimes than a blessing, particularly given the federal income tax implications of this. Somebody thought they were getting into a great business and get a tax bill for a giant number that they can't afford to pay, and their personal assets are on the line. But because of the space, because of the war on drugs and the effect on communities, on specific communities through the 80s and 90s that were adversely affected by that war, something should be done in the space where those wrongs were made at least partially right. This work is a step in the right direction, and to help negotiate those nuances, this is a position we think that is something that would be useful to Nevadans.
Assemblymember Hardy, did you have another question? No? Okay. Members, do we have any additional questions? Okay, not seeing any at this time. I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. We will start here first in Carson City with testimony in support of Assembly Bill 203.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Chelsea Capurro, CAPURRO, on behalf of the Nevada Cannabis Association. I'm here in support with the proposed amendment from Ms. Connor. This has been, we just want to thank the sponsor for taking into account a lot of our concerns that we had with the bill as drafted. But we are in support with the amendment. I think there are still a few pieces clearly that need to be worked out, and we will work with the sponsor. He's already committed to work with us on them. But particularly want to point out sections 2 and section 9 as pieces that we are very supportive of. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, members. Mackenzie Warren Kay, WARRENKAY. On behalf of Deep Roots Harvest, as my colleague Ms. Capurro said, work to do on the bill. Certainly appreciated the member clarifying questions as it relates to section 2. Deep Roots worked with Ms. Connor on this specific amendment as it relates to the packaging and the labeling. One thing that wasn't called out was the fact that we're bringing the definitions of label and packaging that are in reg into NRS. I look forward to getting with you, Vice Chair Marzola, and other members to really get the comfort here. The idea is not to strip away any of the obligations on these very important informative labels. It's simply to remove the duplicative requirement that is costly, it's wasteful, frankly, it's confusing, and redundant. Also want to call out the changes to the visitor log. This is just a nice efficiency that can be realized in section 9, the changes on delivery to try to chip away at the illicit market. But again, we'll continue the work on the bill. We want to thank Assemblymember Carter for taking on this big issue, and we'll continue the work. Thank you.
Hello, Will Adler for the record with Silver State Government Relations representing GTI, Green Thumbs Industries. GTI wanted to support AB 203 and want to especially support it as amended. Just to be clear, a lot of companies are actually digitizing some of the label requirements today and actually adding more information with a QR scan code that's like attached to the package receipt. That's actually revolutionizing kind of my take on cannabis, because you could actually see the whole test results of the product line and get a lot more information than what you actually obtain on a very small printed out pieces of paper, because those receipts do contain not just what is the THC content, but is the terpenes and sort of the flavor profile. And it's actually really hard to read as produced. So I do think even digitizing this or having more tools in the toolkit would be great, and modernizing it is something we could do, because we use a lot of paper in the cannabis industry, and not just to roll. But thank you.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS with Black Joy Consulting, here on behalf of Thrive Marketplace. Madam Chair, we appreciate you hearing this bill. It's important to the community at large. And also, I just want to thank the sponsors and the work that has been done. Assemblymember Carter has called me, texted me, brought me into his office to ensure that we are clear on the language, that we're moving in the right direction, not just in the social equity, because I know that I always sit here as social equity, but as all of the components of the bill, because all of it matters to how this industry is evolving. I do want to call attention to the joint venture specifically, because that is an idea of Thrive Marketplace. The CEO and the owners there are invested in that and the future of what that looks like. They believe that it is a simpler entry to the industry, and that it's an opportunity for licensees to foster relationships of success in this business and in this industry. And what we're not considering, and I want to offer to you all, is it also opens the opportunity for new innovation as it relates to the industries, to the expansion of the offerings and the products. And so on behalf of Thrive Marketplace, I appreciate you all hearing the bill, and we're in support.
Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to testify in support? Not seeing any. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support?
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. My name is Chandler Cooks, ChandlerCooks, and I'm here today on behalf of myself, a social equity licensee, and someone who has navigated the barriers this bill seeks to break down. To qualify as a social equity applicant, you must currently and within the past 5 years live in an area which ranks in the top 30% of the most disadvantaged communities in the state. You must also have a cannabis conviction on your record, and lastly, have $200,000 in liquid assets. The elimination of the egregious ask of liquid assets will certainly open the door for my business to move forward. AB 203 is a declaration that social equity in cannabis is not just a talking point, but a policy priority. It's an opportunity for cannabis businesses to flourish without the unnecessary regulatory roadblocks, and for Nevada to take an even greater leadership role in modern cannabis governance. For too long, social equity in cannabis has been an idea without action, a promise without policy, and a commitment without capital. AB 203 changes that. This is a bill that makes sense, economic sense, business sense, and common sense. Thank you.
Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas? Okay, broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 203, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 917, you are unmuted and may begin.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chairwoman Miller and Judiciary Committee. My name is Ashley Dodson. For the record, ASHLEY, last name Dodson, DODSON. I am in strong support of AB 203, which is a critical step toward ensuring a more inclusive and equitable cannabis industry in Nevada. As a longtime advocate for cannabis policy reform, social equity, and economic justice, I believe this bill provides much needed opportunities for individuals disproportionately affected by past cannabis-related criminalization. AB 203's provisions, particularly the creation of a social equity liaison, joint venture opportunities for impacted individuals, and tax exemptions for social equity applicants, are key measures that align with broader efforts to create a fair and thriving industry. These initiatives will lower financial and regulatory barriers, allowing more diverse entrepreneurs to participate in the legal market. I appreciate the committee's dedication to crafting policies that prioritize equity and economic empowerment. Thank you to Assemblyman Max Carter, and I urge you all to support AB 203 and continue championing legislation that fosters an inclusive and sustainable cannabis industry in Nevada. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3
Good
digits,
morning.
262, you are unmuted and may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Assembly members. Jason Gibson, GIBSON, also known as Bud Justice. It's the first time calling in. Thank you for the opportunity. Please bear with me. I will refine my testimony. For now, we are in favor of AB 203. As a pro-cannabis activist and a post-political prisoner, we've been on the forefront of social reform for 40 years. We were responsible for the Farm Bill Act, which decriminalized hemp in this country in 2018. We were responsible for Measure 67, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, and we had a great deal of influence with California 420, which became Prop, I think, 214 back in way back when, which also became Prop 19. We'd just like you to note, thank you, that the earth does not manufacture drugs. Corporations manufacture drugs, And we've seen these cannabis kings, these commercial kings, come into
Sir?
wrapping up
Sir?
this resource, which is a garden culture economy resource. I'm speaking about AB 203
Jason, okay.
and how you will not.
Jason, I know this is your first day calling in, and so I just want to let you know, and just for the edification of everyone else, testimony is when we're speaking either in support or opposition of the bill, so we want to keep it directed toward the bill. Some of the other comments that you're making are appropriate within this committee, but would be more appropriate during public comment. So I'm just saying that because I know today's your first day, so if you would like to continue speaking directly about the components of the bill, and maybe speak later in public comment, but I just want to let you know what the standard in the committee is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got it. In support of AB 203, we would like the Assembly to note that despite all of these provisions, when we talk about social equity and the black market are the mom and pops peoples like myself and others who are plant people relying on organic alternatives for pain, who cannot grow our own or cultivate our own because we live within 20 miles of a dispensary. We will be profiled, targeted, and harassed by local law enforcement and raided for growing 3 to 5 plants because we live within 20 miles of a dispensary.
Okay, thank you.
And that's
thank
what
you
these
so much, Jason.
farmers
Yes,
have-
your time is up right now.
But
Thank
that's
you.
what they've done in wrapping up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify at this time.
Thank you. Then with that, I will go ahead and open up for testimony in opposition. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and oppose Assembly Bill 203.
Thank you, Madam, or thank you, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Mike Cathcart, representing the City of Henderson, CATH-CART. First, I want to thank Assembly Member Carter for being so generous with his time yesterday. We had a really good meeting with him and all of the other stakeholders that are involved in Assembly Bill 203. We are in opposition today per committee rules because we are seeking a further amendment on the joint venture concept, which is Section 5 of the bill. We are requesting that the local government that has, that has licensed the cultivation or production facility be notified in writing from the licensee of the change to a joint venture, and then also a list of those new members to the licensee. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
We don't have any,
Okay,
but thank
thank
you
you.
for that.
Chair, members of the committee, Nick Vasiliadis, VA-SSILI, ADIS. For the record, on behalf of the Nevada Resort Association, we are opposed as written to the bill since the kind of inception of cannabis laws in this state. If we tried to maintain our 1,500-foot setback as kind of consistent across the board in law, and as written, it's at 300 feet, so we'd have to oppose that. And as the amendment is currently proposed, eliminating that setback altogether does kind of create that similar concern. And so we are committed to working with the bill sponsor and any stakeholders to try and alleviate our concerns, but as it stands right now, we have to remain opposed. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Jeff Rogan, JEFFROGAN, on behalf of Clark County. We are also testifying in opposition today per committee rules. We met with Mr. Cathcart and the sponsor, and we did have a productive conversation. One of the things that we are concerned about is our airports. There's federal laws that still prohibit the use of marijuana at our airports, and so throughout this whole process of marijuana licensing, whether it's medical or recreational, we've always worked in a prohibition on those types of uses on our airport properties. Section 4, we believe, also needs to have a similar amendment that will not allow the delivery of marijuana products to those airport properties, similar to what has been enacted in the past. So we'll continue to work with the sponsor to that effect, as well as to the things that were raised by Mr. Cathcart in his testimony today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, Mike Cathcart for the record, and I forgot to mention that I was also supposed to put on the record for the Urban Consortium, which is the cities of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Reno, and Sparks.
Okay.
With our comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Got that. Okay. Any more opposition testimony here in Carson? Okay, then we will move down to Las Vegas. Not seeing any. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 203, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Assembly members. Again, Jason Garrett Gibson, GIBSON.
Okay, Jason,
also known as
Jason,
Bud Justice.
Jason.
I'll try not to.
Jason, we are in
yes,
opposition.
I'm speaking.
We are in opposition. So
I'm in opposition. I'm in opposition of this bill.
Okay, sir, you just called and said you were in support of the bill. This is
Well, there's supportive elements, and there's opposed.
Okay,
there's
okay. So
opposing elements that
let
need
me
to be on
explain the
record.
rules, Jason. Let me explain the rules. You have to fully support the bill as written, or as some people acknowledge, because of the existing amendments, they were able to support the bill. Opposition is if you don't support the bill as written, and neutral is, of course, if it's usually exercised by municipalities or other organizations that are just there to state actual maybe facts about potential unintended consequences or cost, but not necessarily taking a pro or con position on the policy itself. So I'm going to ask this. I'm extending a lot of grace right now. Are you in opposition of the bill or support of the bill? Yes or no?
Opposition to the bill.
So that means I am removing your support testimony. You can't have both.
Okay.
Okay. So you want me to remove your
right.
support testimony and just have your testimony on record in opposition?
Sure, I think you'd benefit from both, but it's up to you.
Oh, it's one or the other. So we will allow you to be in opposition, and I am requiring that you speak specifically to what you are opposing on Assembly Bill 203.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Jason Garrett Gibson, GIBSON, for the record, also known as Bud G. Justice, on behalf of Voter Power, the decriminalization of the nation and THC Ministries. We are opposed to the further commercialization of hemp cannabis by fictitious entities doing business for the sole purpose of profiteering from Nixon's drug war. We'd like the record to reflect that the advocates for this bill have created a scenario where those of us who rely on organics like hemp cannabis and cultivate from home will be targeted, profiled, and arrested because we live within a 20-mile distance from the local dispensary. And what they have done in wrapping this into so many codes and so many packages and so many regulations and so much taxes is they've stripped the cultural side, they've stripped the home economy side of what this is. And we were the ones who went to jail for it. We were the ones who brought this forward today. The only reason why you folks are talking about this is because people like me went to jail for it. And all of these contractors and all of these guys that are jumping ship.
Thank you so much, Jason. We have you in opposition. Thank you so much. Next caller.
The social equity behind.
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no other callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. Then we will open it up for neutral testimony here in Carson City.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Edgell, Mike for the record. I am the Chief of the Department of Public Safety Investigation Division. I'm here to talk about AB 203. There is a fiscal note that I did draft for this bill, but I understand this is not a money committee, so I won't address that right now. I'll just talk about the effects it could have on our division. NRS 480140 gives my division the authority to enforce statutes within the state of Nevada. One of those is Chapter 453, which is our drug statute laws. The current composition of our department is 32 sworn people, 1 chief, 1 captain, 3 lieutenants, 8 sergeants, and 19 detectives. Within our division, we are responsible for the entire state of Nevada, all 17 counties. Every sheriff, any chief, any agency head who wishes to request us to assist them, we will. The makeup of the department of our division, we have 2 major crimes divisions, one in Carson City, one in Las Vegas. Both have 4 detectives assigned to that. We have 5 drug task forces across the state, one in Ely, one in Elko, Winnemucca, Fallon, and Carson City. Those drug task forces have members within the local committee, sheriffs and police chiefs, as well as the National Guard. Those task forces focus mainly on the drugs that really affect their communities, that cause harm, that cause addiction, that cause major crime, such as fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine. The Department of Public Safety Investigation Division is experienced, and we are practiced in the enforcement of illicit cannabis activities. We do staff a multi-agency marijuana response team where we do respond to outdoor marijuana grows. That team is a voluntary team within the division where they have to work on their days off because they can't be released from their current assignments. That team is funded by a grant from the Drug Enforcement Agency where they fund our uniforms, our travel, our per diem, and our overtime. Once again, that is strictly on an overtime basis. During the 82nd legislature, Senate Bill 328 was passed, and NRS 678A.440 was amended to add that the Nevada Division of Investigation Division of the Department of Public Safety.
Sir, we're over time, so could you wrap it up?
Oh, I will wrap that up. I apologize. The proposed bill will add a little bit of a responsibility to us, so we are requesting it. We will need some additional resources in addition.
Okay, so your testimony is also in neutral because you're not opposing the concept.
Correct.
You're just addressing.
We will do whatever's asked of us. It's just going to require some extra resources.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paige Barnes with the Frado Company, here today on behalf of the United Food and Commercial Workers. We really appreciate the sponsor for taking time to meet and chat with us, work on this bill. We were really interested in this bill pertaining to Section 27 and appreciate the sponsor for accepting our amendment, which strikes that new language and will retain existing requirements for the OSHA training for sales facility employees. With this amendment, we are neutral and have no position on the remainder of the bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Steve Gilbert, Chief of Administration with the Cannabis Compliance Board. That's STEVE-GILBERT. The CCB is neutral on AB 203. And we'd just like to say we appreciate the conversations that we've had with Assemblymember Carter and appreciate the ones that I'm sure we'll have in the future. And we look forward to reviewing the amendments to the bill.
Good morning again. Rihanna Durrett with the UNLV Cannabis Policy Institute. I just wanted to quickly point out that many of the recommendations in this bill are consistent with the policy report that I submitted, along with AB 149. And in that report, there's a deep well of background information, policy information, discussions about varying perspectives on these. And I would just say that a lot of the major themes like social equity, expanding delivery, providing unlicensed tools for the unlicensed market are issues that the Institute believes you will continue to hear because these are not solutions, but they are steps in the right direction. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make testimony in neutral? Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, please open the lines.
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 203, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Assembly members, Jason G. Gibson, Bud G. Justice.
Sir, we're going
keep it short
to
and
move on to
concise
the
with
next
regards to
caller.
the
Next
neutrality.
caller, please.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. I will welcome the bill presenters back up for any final comments.
We're good. Max Carter, for the record, just want to say thank you and acknowledge that all of the stakeholders have been fantastic, actively engaged, and I look forward to continuing the pursuit of finding solutions rather than just complain about problems. Thank you.
Brett Scolari, thank you. No further comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I I know that Assemblymember will Carter will continue to work with everyone. So thank you so much for your presentation and for bringing this bill forward. With that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 203. The last order of business we have today is public comment. So I want to remind folks that the rules of the committee is that public comment is not to make any comments on bills that have been heard today, but to other issues that are under the purview of this committee. With that, I will open it up to public comment. Anyone here in Carson City that would like to come forward and make public comment? Is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to make public comment? Broadcasting, open the lines.
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 262. You are unmuted and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 262. Please press star 6 to unmute your phone. You may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Assembly members. Jason Gibson, also known as Bud Justice. We'll get this right. Bear with me. Again, we are providing public testimony with regards to cannabis commerce in and for the state of Nevada, on Nevada state land, a state that has been waging war upon First Nation peoples for well over 150 years. This drug war was put in motion in 1936. And for the last 85 to 90 years, it has been one of the key components to the total desecration of indigenous peoples, the organic order, and the biosphere. Everything you're doing here today is nothing more than damage control. And I've been listening into a lot of these various sessions at our various legislative assemblies. So much damage control and monies that you're throwing at the erroneous drug war policies of this state and the United States Incorporated ghost country, that it should be known that I don't hear anything in terms of reparations. I don't hear anything in terms of legal assistance in helping us to recover. I'm dealing with 35 years of targeting, profiling, and aggression by local law enforcement. I'm going to jail under the auspice of mental illness because I'm an advocate here in Douglas County and a post-political prisoner who ran for public office and was abducted by law enforcement and taken off the ballot because of my pro-cannabis activism. Because we are the foundation for the law of time, and we are the Nevada State Assembly, and we are the new American States Assembly at lawoftime.org.
Jason, your time is up.
Info.
Jason, your 2 minutes are up. Thank you so much for your public comment. Next caller.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE GRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy was one of many victims of Reno police hogtied and asphyxiated to death at the Washoe County Jail after being dumped there, begging for his life, only to be ignored and asphyxiated to death. Police killing individual community members in Nevada is still happening. You've had at least 5 deadly officer-involved shootings since January 1st. Michael Bright, age 64, was shot in Carson City on February 4th, 2025 and died. In Clark County, I'm aware of 2 shootings, 1/24/2025, 45-year-old Jeremiah Bashard was shot by an off-duty LVMPD officer. February 4th, 25-year-old Alexander Mathis was shot by LVMPD. And in Washoe County, where they murdered my brother, on February 9th, Cooper Kaya was shot right in front of Renown Hospital and died on February 15th. And on February 12th, 2025, Jeffrey Chapman was shot and killed by police there. I'd briefly like to talk about another victim of LVMPD, 50-year-old Brian Lee Williams, who was also asphyxiated to death like my brother. He was known as Ronnie to his family members, and he was murdered for allegedly not having a safety light on his bicycle. He was pulled over in the early morning hours on Martin Luther King Boulevard in Vegas, and likely due to having a bad experience with police before he decided to run. When police caught up with him, he complied and got on the ground, surrendering. 2 officers jumped on his back, holding him in a prone restraint. At this point, Ronnie began stating over and over again, like my brother, I can't breathe. His pleas for help was only answered with total callousness. The video shows officers laughing at him and mocking him and giving each other props for catching him. I think we need to get some laws here that allow us to hold these police officers accountable with prison time when they murder somebody.
Ms. Grant?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chair, there are no other callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, thank you, members, and to everyone who presented and testified today. Our business for the day is done. I will adjourn this meeting and see you all at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Whoa. I'm sorry. It was a bad misspeaking. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Sorry about, you did hear it. I can't believe I said it, but I meant 8 o'clock. That's what we're agendized for. Sorry about that. Maybe that was my secret desire, but it's 8 a.m.